Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Whiskey Gaming Show. Today we've got RJ here with us. Hey RJ. Oh look, it's a beer as big as his freaking head. Look at that. He's not going to say anything, he's just going to drink the beer. And there we got Caleb. Say hey Caleb.
Hey guys.
So it looks like we got the sound all working today, which is a good thing. And hopefully the chat is working. So we will see on that. Jury's still out. It kind of worked a little bit in the beginning, and it kind of didn't work, and it kind of worked again. So we'll see. And Scythe is here, but he's not here. We're not sure what he's doing. Last time we heard, he was messing with his ceiling fan or bathing. We're not sure which. Because, you know...
Hopefully it's not messing with the ceiling fan while he's bathing.
all we know is that you clearly have to be showered and bathed in order to be on chat only in any one of the INN shows, right?
Stench still comes over the chat.
Stench. It's smell-o-vision.
Stench.
Who was it who did that on Food Network back in the day? Emerald Lagasse, I think. Emerald. He did smell-o-vision.
Are we trying to aim for some sort of Jackass audience segment thingy?
What, huh?
The Jackass segment.
No, we're not trying that. Are we achieving it?
We already have that.
Dude, we're already down in the gutter. We started in the gutter.
All right. We'll see. We will see. Oh,
so, RJ, should we get back on our loot crates?
Loot crates. Well, yeah. So before in the pregame, right, we were chit chatting. RJ and Caleb were going at it pretty good, ladies and gentlemen. They were near at fisticuffs earlier with their argument over is it gambling or not in Belgium for loot crates.
So yeah, that was the whole thing that came up with. I saw a little news article that came out on PC Gamer or whatnot. That I guess Belgium is trying to push up through the EU that loot crates are considered, gambling, and they want to make them fucking illegal and shit. I look at it as my point of view of it should be people's choice, even though it is wrong as about two boys fucking or whatever. But it's someone's free will that someone else is trying to take away. But it is garbage. I do concede to that with Caleb. So granted, you hear first, I just conceded to Caleb with something.
Don't concede. The point, the main point is that even if I think most people can agree that this is some sort of gambling, and you've already seen how people are utilizing it and monetizing on it for personal gains and all these things. I think the main problem here is that you can't really put up a functional barrier of age limit on the internet. I think everyone agrees on that. So you can't say, well, you have to click that you're over 18. It's like every single person on the planet will just say, yeah, of course I am.
Yeah, I'm over 18.
I'm over 21. I can go to McAllen.com.
Give me them loots.
No, here's that's a challenge, right? It's a tough call because we've all grown up with loot crates, right? And you have some rare and you have some not rare.
We've not had loot crates until like the last 3-4 years or so.
Well,
before that, every randomizing happened elsewhere in the game, with the exception of actual casino-like sites.
Well, what are you talking about randomizing? Let's start there then.
Well, I was trying to explain my opinion on how to distinguish whether it's a loot crate or whether it's just loot, right? If you have a rat in a belt or a mob out in the wild and you shoot it and it has a drop, this can be generated randomly and it's generated specifically for you. You can't exchange the randomizing element with another player, right? You can't really trade it as an item, or you cannot have another player avoid to play the game and only play the randomizing element. This is the problem.
Okay.
When you put it into the hands of a player out in a belt or in the wild, and they can then bring it to a centralized location, and then the randomizer is then in effect, then it becomes a casino. This is why it should really be banned. And if you want to make a casino, you should make a casino game. You should not try to work your way around it and create a randomized incentive, because this is pretty much psychology 101. This is equivalent to Skinner box mechanics and all the things that game developers do to do the whole reward center psychology on how to get players to play more, right? And everyone knows that the masters of this are in Las Vegas, right?
Well, yeah, but technically it's a game of skill in Vegas, right?
only if you're playing poker, right? Everything else is basically just randomized bullshit.
Well,
you cannot, with skill, do anything. Okay,
Caleb, are you telling me
maybe
that I can't pick numbers at more fat and read how fast that ball goes around that roulette dial? Are you telling me this?
No. I'm saying human beings can't. I'm not saying you can't, but human beings in general cannot do this.
He doesn't treat me as a human being. I don't feel equal.
You're not equal.
Well, it's because your fellow aliens called, and they were asking when you were coming home.
I identify as an armor hack.
So,
I'm a meat popsicle.
yeah, right, okay.
Is that a genus?
No, he's just jonesing over Mila Jovanovic or whatever her name is. Yes, he is. Look at him. He's like, okay. So let's
Still
think
hot.
about this, right?
Still hot.
How much different is the randomization of the gambling, right? I think this is your point, Caleb.
My point is where your randomizing element is. If the randomizing element is call it under the hood, where you actually have to do a lot of stuff to attain the thing, and then you can only have the randomization at a specific time and place that's bound to what you're doing, then it's what you would call traditional loot table randomization. Most people don't have an issue with that, and I don't think legally you can argue that that's a problem. On the contrary, this is part of the game. But when you put it in a crate, a lucky pouch, or whatever you fucking call this, and then you make that a thing that you can buy, this is exactly what a casino is like. It's just bringing that box to a station, and now you got then the game is basically just one-armed jacks, and you can just sit there forever and open loot crates and just speculate on that. And that's not good for the gaming industry. It's a very, very bad game design. It's showing some sort of laziness and retarded developers path. It's like, we don't know how to make games anymore. We're just going to make fucking casinos because we know that works. Like, fuck off.
Yeah. Well, it's
So
like,
here's my question.
Go ahead, Say.
Does it bug you when you have those randomized loot boxes that are earned by actually playing the game? Like
same thing.
Like
That's
in
the
Overwatch,
problem.
you can buy the loot boxes, or you can just play the
But
game.
it's the
and,
same problem. You
try and
can
stack them.
exchange it. That means that you are exchanging the randomizing element with other players. That's the flaw. That's the problem. You should not be able to have access to a randomizing element if you're not actually playing the game.
yeah,
So,
and this is
that's what I'm saying. These items can be gotten via playing the game. So do you think those are out of just not right?
As I said to RJ before the show, you could sort of argue that if the actual content of a loot crate is already generated when it drops, and you just can't see it, maybe that's a gray zone. But in general, I think it's a major mistake to even have a randomizing element that is obfuscated and invisible.
Noisy, I'm not talking about a box with a key at all. This is literally loot box unlocks at will. Whenever you want to hit the button, you can unlock it. You just earn it by playing the game.
I'm opposed to any randomization that does not take place at a set event that's linked to the game.
Yeah.
So the set
so
event is this
it makes it a
randomness
casino.
triggers when you level up your skill in multiplayer.
Hey, let's
No.
let's
When
That's
you
like
shoot a
90%
mob,
of
when
the loot
you
boxes out
when,
there.
when
lost
you
control.
when you loot anything, when you kill anything, when you're actually engaging with the gameplay that is part of the universe,
So you just mean-
whatever that game is.
So playing 20 matches of a competitive shooter that then drops a box that is your loot drop, and you didn't open it after the match is over because you don't got time to do that in the shooter game. You think that would be out of whack as well?
To me, it makes no sense
Well-
to have any type of loot or randomized reward system in a player versus player bout system. It makes no fucking sense to me. It's like playing tennis and the reward is randomized. You don't know what your prize money is going to be. It's like, that makes no sense. It should be fixed, and it should be something that is balanced in the game. It makes no sense to have randomization in PvP.
Okay, let me take a pause here and make sure that that our watchers get the full gist of what we're talking about, right? So this started really from Belgium.
Him.
Essentially saying that loot boxes that you purchase, right, outside of the game are effectively gambling. That's correct, right? Everybody,
Yeah,
everybody
I
agrees?
totally agree.
Okay, so the and the question is that really gambling, right?
Especially if you can buy it directly from the developer, then it's specifically only gambling.
Right, and I think I would agree on that topic. The piece that I don't agree with, probably Caleb, is where Scythe was coming from. Whereas, hey, okay, I get you're playing the game and you get random loot boxes, and so for the longer that you play the game, the more chance you have at getting some loot box and enjoying, as long as you're not necessarily have to pay over and over and over per game, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we've seen that, and I think that's a good thing, right? But the
Yeah.
randomization of something that you pay a microtransaction for, right? As we saw in H1Z1 where we had boxes and you had to buy the key to open the boxes and all that bullshit, right? I think that approach is closer to gambling than anything else, and I think Belgium's probably right, and I think you'll see other people follow suit on that. Thoughts?
Yeah.
So
And
check-
just to answer chat, right? I'm against all these types of gamblings. However, you try to hide it or manipulate it into your gameplay. Of course, you can say something like a card game. Maybe that's a gray zone where I might say that it's already a sort of gambling biased game, but I still don't like it, and I would really prefer that it's done exactly the same way as when you play a proper Magic the Gathering game. If you're playing versus games, you pick your cards, and these are the ones that you're actually playing for. It should not be randomized at all. I think randomization is a horror when it's something that you speculate on making part of your main unique selling point.
Let me
just had the same
So you-
thought.
go ahead. Let
Yeah,
let
that's probably just had the same thought in chat. Just as kind of like I popped in my head, like wouldn't these loot boxes and so on be your random rewards throughout Eve, especially visible in exploration? So I mean, you are literally playing a mini game of chance to get into these freaking cargo holds to get all your freaking exploration shit.
But that's PvE, and you are engaging with the environment to get the loot box or the actual loot.
So you're just
Loot
generally
boxes I'm
saying,
against because you can wrap the randomization into a box that you can carry. That's a problem, and I don't think that should be in any game. But I do think that randomized elements should always be available in PvE, and this is also why when Ashtarothi talks about card games, well, if it's player versus player, you have rules just like you do in classic Magic the Gathering. When you're playing versus a computer, so the equivalent of player versus environment, the same rules basically apply, and it's randomized because you don't know what deck you're playing against, right? So there's always some sort of random element. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not even opposed to casinos and gambling. I like it. I just don't like that they are trying to convert other games into gambling games. That's not that's the bad development.
Well, but here's the thing, right? So gambling is, we know, highly addictive for many, many, many people, right? We've seen that even with the ISK gambling sites and everything, right? People get in there, they do it, they spend real world money, they get into this thing, and they keep going, right? Incorporating those elements into the game having random loot boxes, even for gameplay, right, is playing upon those very same motivational, entities within.
And
within the
so
population,
directly
right?
that it's no longer the incentive to play, the motivation to play has shifted away from the actual game design. So let's say in Eve, right, all the things that you have to do to get that excitement and kick and this psychological effect of wanting to play more, right? Basically, by putting in things like loot boxes or any random casino-like effects, you're basically trying to shift all the motivation onto a well-known and tested gambling psychology, and I don't think that's a good way of developing games. I think it's lazy, it's dumb, and it's mixing apples and oranges. Because don't get me wrong, I really like gambling. I love playing blackjack. I love playing poker. I'm even inclined to once or twice to actually pull that one-armed jack, but I don't think that belongs in a game development scene. I think it's a mistake. It's so lazy that it's almost bordering on pathetic.
So let me point this out real quick. Gambling is specifically, just so y'all understand, gambling is if you can win money. You bet money and win something of monetary value. Most of these drop boxes have no conversion to a monetary item.
No, that's just a legal point of view.
That's not
Well,
necessarily.
that's the important part. So
Yeah, but that's whether you can buy it from the game
defines it as
developer.
gambling, though.
That's not necessarily true.
These loot boxes that drop skins that you can then sell on the Steam marketplace, that would be considered gambling because you literally can turn around and get money out of it.
And there's a lot of that in a lot of games.
Yeah, and that would be crazy. What,
I was not arguing for the value of things. That's the
Yeah.
legal issue. That's not really my table at
Yeah.
all. I have
So-
no opinion because I'm not a lawyer. I'm saying that game development wise, adding these elements that are so directly gambling motivated to incentivize more game, it's lazy, it's dumb, and
Okay.
I think it's below the developers. I think it's pathetic, and personally, I would much rather play a proper gambling and casino-oriented game, even where I can win some real money, than wasting my time doing that in a fictional universe. And this is also why you see, and this is maybe Noisy's topic, eventually players will start abusing this system and try to make money on it, whether they have to do it around the rules of the game illegally. It's a slippery slope. You are destroying traditional game developing.
Well, that's where you have business motivation, right? If something is capable of making income for me, right, and it's technically not illegal in how it's viewed, right, and I can do it, I mean, again, game developers are in here to make money. They're not necessarily here to make the most rewarding and ethical game, right? Let's be real about this. And there are lots of examples on how you can get stuff out of these random crates and sell it for real world money, right? And that's where I think you get your connection. But again, I think what Belgium,
Into
the
the deep
spirit,
psychology of this and why it's a detrimental opposite design of what CCP has traditionally done. So they should stay totally out of anything related to boxes, because when it comes to the whole thing of how you generate random elements into a game and how it motivates psychologically, that's exactly the opposite of what people in Eve are playing for. But just to answer Ashtarothi once again, I am not against random elements in games. I am against a portable randomized element that can be traded with other players or bought from a store. There's a huge fucking difference. I said PvE, you always want some sort of random element because you need chaos in any system and gameplay. But that's not the same thing when you can sit and play the game, or rather not play the game and only play the randomized element.
yeah.
So my wife just came in, right? And she was listening to this whole thing because she was telling me she was leaving. So, she plays a game right now. She subscribes to for Sensi or whatever, and it's the same kind of concept with a freaking loot box. She opens it, and it gives her a chance of something and something or other. So now, would that be freaking illegal?
Well, again, the legality is really based on whether or not there's a monetary value, and I'm not arguing. I don't think that we can really argue the legality because it's not really our thing. It's going to be decided by people that are much deeper into legal issues and clauses and paragraphs and all that stuff. I'm just saying that game development wise.
Let me make a prediction here real quick. I'm sorry, go ahead, RJ.
Well, the other thing she mentioned real quick is like, you've seen eBay. They got freaking chance boxes on there, right? You spend a certain amount of money, you don't know what the hell is in the freaking box. You get it, and you could either get freaking screwed, or you can have something really fucking that equals up to what you paid for it.
Okay, so I want to make a prediction here with what's actually going to come out of all of this. The randomized loot boxes are not going to go away. You just will not be able to sell what you get from them in a system. So they're going to block the Steam Marketplace. They're going to be items that are bound to an account, that kind of thing, and people are still going to fucking buy them. Okay, especially
this is why I'm saying that this should get nowhere near CCP's games at all. They should stay totally clear of this because if they add these things to Eve, things like bind on pickup and all these things, it's exactly the opposite of what the whole game is designed to do. Eve is supposed to be 100% fungible. Whatever item you have, it's supposed to be tradable. Adding things that are bind on pickup or bind on acquisition from store, all this bullshit should never touch Eve, in my opinion. It's a huge mistake to even go down that road.
So there's already random loot boxes in Eve. Just do your hacking thing. Do that like what's it called? Yeah,
but they're not bind on pickup, right? So you don't have to put those clauses in.
Yeah, and Asteroid says bind on pickup is anti-thematic to Eve, and he's right. But when you look at this, right, and somebody mentioned in there, it's going to be very jurisdiction oriented. I predict that, a lot of this, like you said, last 3 years, but when we look at certain games, we grew up with those great games having these things, is what I was alluding to earlier. I think as people begin to look at this stuff, particularly from a U.S. perspective, because that's the only perspective I can talk to, you're going to see things like if you spend so much on eBay and you get a random box and you don't know what it is, you're going to see those things looked at a lot closer, I think.
Yeah, so there's a whole company just called Loot Crate that sends you cool shit in the mail. Like, you're going to lose all those services. I agree. And those things make a shit ton of money. Like, I don't know if anyone's looked at what they put in there versus how much money they get in. Well, it's pretty scary.
I saw one dude spend $10,000 on a freaking box on eBay just because he wanted to test this shit. And he went through there. He got a freaking this is on a video. He got a Razer blade in there, the freaking laptop, which is actually pretty.
Yeah, it's about $3,000.
And then he searched around and he got a whole bunch of other bullshit. And then in some random bag, he had a fucking Rolex, and he spent $10,000 on this shit.
Yep.
But again, this is not really just a discussion. It's not really a discussion of whether randomized games are good or whether casino stuff is good.
Eric, Skype's fucked.
What?
Skype cameras
fucked up.
The
point is really about whether it should be in games that are not casino oriented or gambling oriented. I have no problems with gambling elements, and the irony is that I am not allowed to play blackjack in Eve for ISK, right? But I am allowed to have this bullshit.
That's funny. I just resized the box.
That forehead was really loud at me.
I don't know what happened.
I was trying to type that, but I couldn't remember.
But I'm gonna do some weird shit, and it worked for both of them.
I don't know what the hell just happened there. That was impressive.
I don't know. I'll explain to you later.
All right, let's get off this topic because it's going to be country by country, and it's not really.
Well, it'll exceed.
Not when you're the freaking EU and you don't have a country anymore.
That's actually true. Brexit keeps your Counter-Strike loot boxes intact.
Okay.
But the point I'm making, I think, is important for Eve, right? Well, if they want gambling elements in Eve, they should go all out and let us have actual proper gambling elements. Give me the blackjack of Eve. Give me the fucking poker of Eve. Give me that mini game that they promised us.
Yeah.
In Walking in Stations, I'd be fine with that. But these loot boxes are horrible. It's offensive as fuck. I'm not even sure how to express my rage at this phenomenon because I think like I'm getting like the bullshit. It's like going into a casino and the only thing is the one-armed jack. It's like, then it's not a casino. I don't want to play here.
Hey,
audience, a one-armed jack is a slot machine.
And you're just talking about the Vegas airport right there.
I thought that's what I did
Exactly.
last night.
If I'm going to go gambling, I want to play proper games. I want to play the roulette. I want to play poker. I want to play blackjack. I don't want fucking slot machines. Take that shit away.
Fuck that.
That's
I
for
want
old people with no brain.
I want freaking 2 go in, 1 comes out. Master Blaster owns fucking Bartertown.
Hey, I just want to give a shout out here to RW, who, for whatever reason, hasn't made it here today. He was going to be here, but he was talking about this drink earlier this morning. And he says he just put some good coffee in a cup, throws a bunch of vodka in it, and then throws a bunch of Baileys over top. And let me tell you, that is a fantastic combination. And I'm drinking it right here. It's great.
And if I can segue just a little bit on the gambling topic, right? Because we had CCP Nawal on Talking Stations earlier today. I think it's important that if we want gambling in EVE, maybe we should focus on making the actual markets in EVE a lot more gamble-oriented. Let's get things like contracts for difference. Let's get the loan contracts. Let's get all these things that are used in the high-end gambling world, right? Let's go full financial stuff and banking. Then you have some proper level gambling.
As a person who is banking, no, don't want that in the game.
Hey,
It
I would
will
actually
fucking
enjoy some
ruin it.
loan contracts. I would
No.
enjoy that.
Hey,
No.
Scythe.
Oh, yeah.
Scythe, as long as we get to play the OCC in EVE, that might not be
Yeah,
too bad.
exactly,
There we go.
right?
Yeah.
Who gets to pay that commission?
Damn it.
Fucking Christ. Yeah. So here's the problem with those loan contracts, people. You have to be able to enforce them.
No, you don't.
And then you have to have a system that
Who enforces this shit in real life on a scale that's realistic?
Yeah,
it's like saying there's no
collection
scammers
agency.
in
I don't
EVE.
want a collection agency in fucking EVE. I don't want to have to hear about it.
Yeah, but
Like,
in the real world, you have a set of laws and things and
Exactly.
repercussions. You don't have that in EVE, and you have no way
You don't
to
want
do that.
and you
That's
don't
dumb.
want to have it in EVE. You're adding complexity that makes the game worse.
Just fucking
No, it
make
doesn't.
a
It makes the
real.
game
Oh,
there-
no.
great again. It
No,
used to
it
be
doesn't.
there.
There's a list of 1,000 things,
Would
guys.
you like to take a 3-month mortgage out on your next work quote? Because I will fucking lend you the money.
Easy.
It's going to be 50% interest though, and guess what? If you don't pay me back, I get the work quote, your
I'm
money,
sorry
and your
to-
character.
I'm sorry to
'Cause
tell you
that's your
this,
only
guys,
asset.
but the current interest rate on ISK in EVE is usually in the realm of 2 to 4%, which is pretty much the same influx of new ISK into the game. So it's pretty much flat. So
Oh yeah, but
borrowing money
here's the
in
problem
EVE is free.
without a commission to regulate that, people are going to do like 100%.
You don't need that. It's already been in the game since day one. We've had a meta market that's been doing these things. It's just
Yeah,
not
but
been on
it's-
scale because it's very hard to actually do and implement because there's no good tools in the game. And back to
here's
the
my
loan
question,
contracts, you don't have loan contracts. You don't have futures. All these things need tools.
Futures.
And when you have tools, you can actually start doing that. If you get things like this, now we have a method to actually calculate our values and navs and all this
Caleb,
stuff.
I have a question. I need to interrupt you here because you're not thinking this through. If I were to borrow ISK from you, what repercussion is there that I actually don't pay it back?
It's called collateral. It's just like when you
as a
take a
player
car
able
loan.
to fix that
You're
right now.
actually going to the
Collateral.
Yeah, but what
What
collateral?
do I have? I have no money.
Collateral is
The
the
only-
items
the
that
only
you hand
actual
over as collateral. You have physical collateral or you have credit rating.
Why
And
would I-
credit rating is up to people's
Oh
trust.
my
Just
God.
like in the real world.
Fucking
You're-
credit
you're-
ratings
no, no,
in
no,
EVE.
you're
Been
not
working
thinking about
okay, so listen.
No, Caleb,
This has been
let me-
working
let
for
me
more
interrupt
than
you, buddy.
10 years. Don't teach me about the thing that I've been playing all my time in EVE. This is
Yeah.
something that's been in
No,
the
no,
game
Caleb,
since
let me
day
just-
one.
you need
It's
to
been
mass-
working
you need to
and
think
it's
about
still
this in
working.
mass. You need to think about this in mass.
What are you talking about?
There is
There's more than
no-
5. Okay, listen. There's more than 5
Caleb, shut up
trillion
for a fucking
in
moment and
the
let me
market
talk.
right now.
Can you mute him for a second?
Mm.
So Caleb, let me point it out this way. If you're going to make this system mass out to anyone can do it, you have to have something you can take. The only item in game that actually really has any value is your player's skill points, and you're not
No,
going to
it's
take
not.
that.
All
from
your
there.
items can be used as collateral, and the rest is basically your credit rating. This is not rocket science. It's been going on since day one in this game.
Yes.
And I
Okay.
What are you going to use to establish credit
You
rating
are
here?
guys.
That's about
You
trust and the valuation of the character and what is the value of defaulting, because then your credit rating is dead forever. So valuating a character based on how old it is, how much
I defaulted, but I have a
no.
fucking Titan. Who gives a shit?
Well, if you default once, that's a historical event that you can never go back from, right? You can never get a new credit if you have scammed or defaulted.
Oh no, but I have all that money already.
Let's put it this way: if I had a,
Put in repercussion.
yeah.
This is what you do that's what's called rep grinding. This is what all the big scams have been about. All the Ponzi's, all the things that people have done in the meta market. I'm trying to explain to you. This has been going on in EVE since day one, and it is still very active. And there is more than 5 trillion right now flowing around in that market.
Caleb, what my next question is, I scam you on one tune, and then I have another tune. I just transfer all that shit to him. What do?
Well, that depends on what character are you doing this on. No, okay. If you're doing this on your main has now lost value. You can never use your main for these things again.
No.
This is something you can easily calculate. It's not rocket science. You're trying to push in some sort of protection thing that's not necessary. People can make up their own mind. If I want to lend you 10 billion, 50 billion, I'm basing this on what credit rating am I giving you as a person, as a player, as a character value-wise, future value, future credit rating, because if you scam me or default on the loan I gave you, then you're not going to be able to get one from someone else.
Okay. You know what?
That assumption.
What's wrong? This is what's been going on in the MD since forever.
I want to call my wife in the other room there and ask her to bring in the frickin' electric corkscrew so I can screw it into my eye. That's how crazy I think this conversation is.
Dude,
I gotta tell you,
this is
this is
Let's do it.
this is such a niche part of EVE that I'll never see it running around in the mass. And the coding that would be required to do this is so intense that if any of you think CCP can write that code with all the other shit that's already wrong in this game, you guys are crazy.
No, you're not. It's
Fucking
because
crazy.
you're expecting CCP to handle things like protection. It's never been like that.
You don't know.
In EVE, you make a contract. It's up to you if you're dumb enough to accept it. Same with a loan contract, with collateral, without collateral, a futures contract, with or without collateral as well.
Yeah.
It's not really that difficult. It's just we need the actual tools to be able to do these things. So
Okay. So where are those tools? And who?
Let me finish this.
You expect them to make a market that's able to short something and write that code? You're fucking
make
crazy.
an account login system work. How are they going to fucking make a market that can handle this shit?
It's not about handling. It's very, very simple features that you need to add to a contract system.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's really not. So,
No.
let's move on.
No. Enough of this conversation.
Well, you can use
I'm
ridicule.
alone on this
Listen.
life,
You
it's
can
not.
sit there and laugh and use ridicule, but it doesn't change the fact that the contract system we have now, the only thing that's needed we've actually had free-form contracts in the past that was actually used for some of these things, but because they were not standardized and not easy to use, no one actually used them for that. Because
Let me ask you one basic rule of your shorting system. Okay? Because the basic concept of the short is that I settle at a particular date. And that settlement date is based on the settlement date agreed to by stock transfer. Right?
Well, the point is that you would have to do it in a workaround way.
Let him
You would
ask
have to have some
you
sort of...
No, I just asked you what. I
third-party
didn't ask you how to do it. I asked you what is the rule. Because today in the marketplace in EVE, all transactions are instant. There is no settlement. You have to design a complete new. No.
Okay, there is. It's called couriers, right? You can easily convert a courier contract to be a contract for difference, where delivery is upon the certain date and at the same station. It's not really that difficult to create something like that. The difficult part of that would be how do you handle things like collateral, right? And how you would have to have some sort of, say, you put $1 billion in. No, instead of laughing, try to listen, right? If you put $1 billion in, you might say you could have 5 contracts out, and only when one fails, then all of them fail, right? If you do not have the collateral to cover. This is all tied into things like the margin trading skill and stuff like that. It's about how do you manage the leverage.
I understand that, but you still need code in game, and you have to have an
The
R.
code is already there. The contract.
The code
the
isn't
contract's
there.
Fine. It
Code's
needs
not
very
there.
few tweaks to have the same function.
Unless you wrote that code, you can't make that statement. Okay? You have to write new code and new marketplaces into the system, and you have to
It's not
tell
about
me.
new-
Wait a
it's not
minute.
a new-
You have to
It's
tell
not a
me.
new contract. It's just a courier where the content is not there yet.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. You're not going to be able to use the courier contract code to do that. But beside that point, okay, you're still going to have to write code, and you still have to sit there as a business person and say, if I put this code into play, okay, is there an ROI on gameplay that is going to be worth the cost to write this code? And I'm going to tell you right now,
Nope.
no way.
No,
No way.
it's
Well, you
not
can say
worth
no way all you like, but the contract system needs an overhaul anyways because it's so
also
antiquated. It
devalues
doesn't have all the things that are needed to have a contract system. So
horribleness.
when they add a new system, having these features, and so how do you add all these extra fields to the system of making a contract? Things like how does collateral work? How does pricing work? What is the what ifs when you deliver A to location B? All these things need to be coded in there, but they are already there in principle. As I tried to explain, there is not that much of a difference between a courier and a contract for difference.
I disagree, knowing how market code is written and how it operates, and all of the rules that you have to put in place for that type of market to work and be fair and equitable. I don't think you're there.
No, the only thing that's needed code-wise is to have a virtualized item, right?
No.
That is basically a negative integer on the items that you put in a contract. And that's already there in exchange contract. Where you can, but it's already there. You can make a contract where you require a certain item for another certain item. So this is not really that difficult. The difficult part is adding the time feature in there that on this date, you are required to deliver X amount of items into this contract that you have already accepted.
I'm just going to tell you that there is no way to implement this unless you create an actual rule set that you have to write code against. Now, you can argue that you think certain code in the game is portable, but
you do know
I don't
that
know
when you
that
have a
realistically.
contract for items, you can ask for another item. That means that is a negative integer, right? It says unless you have this in your hangar.
Caleb,
So it's not that
feature of
difficult.
loans is that you can pay them off over a long period of time by making small incremental payments.
Now you're
There is
talking
not
about
that in
loan
there.
contracts. That's even more simple, right? Because that's pretty
it's
much
not-
back to the freeform model. That's already in the database.
Yeah, not when the items are in this game are so easily destructible.
Well, there's
clauses, whatever.
again, guys. There's
You
tremendous
lock,
things.
you lock your collateral when you do a collateralized loan obligation. So it's not really a problem.
Bottom line is, and where we started this conversation, is the capability within the marketplace to short and to make futures contracts, right? And if you're going to short and make futures hold on, let me finish. If you're going to short things and make market contracts, there are in-game mechanisms that need to be written and enforced, okay? So when it comes to settlement time, you can't just be using collateral and things like that. There actually has to be other stuff used. So
You use collateral, whether that's ISK or items. If you default on a contract, that is then handed over to the contract party in question. It's not really that difficult. It's already there if you fail a courier contract, you actually have to lose your collateral. It's not. I'm gonna.
What reward system would you put on an in-game credit card?
Okay,
Can I get an in-game credit card with like 4% back on jump?
So we've got 20 minutes left. We're going to move on to a different subject. I'm just going to say the one last thing. The greatest thing ever said by any software engineer ever. Nothing is impossible for those who don't have to write the code. Okay. So
the point is that the code is already there. That's
it's
why
not already there.
Yes, it is.
On.
Okay, hold on.
Rattlesnake Black Friday bundle. It's pretty cool.
So, to guarantee that the code is already there, I look forward to your white paper, Caleb, on the rules and exactly how this marketplace would work. Because I guarantee you, whatever you put down on paper ain't going to be in the code today.
Can you come shoot me, please?
So, Asterothly got a rattlesnake skin. Aaron much rejoicing. Let's have a drink to Asterothly.
That rattlesnake skin's pretty, and you get a 1,100 Plex with it for the same price. So you get a free skin and 2 month subscription. There you go. Have fun.
So what
Or
what do we think the discount on these things are? And Caleb, you had a thing going on the email.
Oh, I was just wondering why CCP sends out advertising emails without a price on it. I think
it's
that's
fucking
really weird.
stupid.
But the big Black Friday pack was pretty decent. I think across the board, all the things are now 30% off. But the big pack, if you start calculating all the extras in there, I think it's almost 40 to 50% savings in dollar value.
RJ, we can't hear you, bud. You're quiet.
Hello?
You can kind of hear you. You're a little
I
quiet.
hear you. You're kind of quiet.
I'm quiet?
Yeah, put your mouth up against that big microphone, baby.
Eat that mic. Eat it. No.
Hey, I gotta click on this last message from Rib, see if she's yelling. Oh, who triggered Caleb? I answered her. Now, for the record, I think it could be interesting writing the markets, but it's going to take a lot of work.
I love you too.
Oh my God!
Now we need the
We
Waka
won't
Waka
be able
music.
to hang out again in real life until Vegas. Bad.
Yeah, I'll see you in Vegas again.
Yep.
So since we had all this option stuff up, I pulled the page up. So Omega Rush, $99, save over 50%. 3 months of Omega, 2 times 90 days, multiple character training, 5 times skill extractors, 1 body resculpt, whatever. 1 Apocalypse Star Captain skin, and 4 apparel items.
Yep.
You got King's Ransom for $40, $39.99, whatever you want to look at.
So the King's Ransom bundle is about the same price as just 2 month subscription, including that skin. So you're paying full price for the skin and just getting 2 months of subscription. It's like a savings of like $10.
By the way,
I just did the math.
From the art perspective, because they're all artsy fartsy dude.
Yeah.
The way they did this skin, where they put these emissive channels on like the antenna frickin' tips and all that stuff or whatever, I'd like to see more skins like that. Like what
For the
they
rattlesnake
did with,
one?
yeah, like what they did with the that one Macarial skin. The name escapes me right now, where it has like the light rails and shit on it and all that. And the green one, that's a sexy freaking skin. The way they did that. So I'd like to see more skins with like these emissive and freaking light effects and shit on them. That'd be freaking badass.
So, in other news, they also added that Twitter content with the kill marks, and I think it's interesting because in unison with the sales thing, it's potentially going to start cooling off the Plex prices.
I have not even been following Plex prices. I don't even know what they are.
They're slightly up.
Like 3.3 mil or 3.4?
Like 3.1.
That's about where it's been for a long time.
Yeah, it's about 5,000 ISK more per unit, I think.
Okay.
It's not much.
So,
I mean, Jeet higher than Delve. Let's put it that way.
important question of the day: Who has completed their Christmas decorating?
I hung a
Not
light
time yet.
today,
You-
but not like a Christmas light, just like a ceiling fan.
How'd you do with that? Did you pass handyman training or not?
So this will be the 4th one I fucking hung, and either the bracket built into the house is fucked, or there's like a washer or something missing because it's wobbling, and I
It's
can't get it
not
any tighter.
balanced.
Like everything is fucking tight as hell.
It's not
And it-
balanced right.
But it's wobbling at the bracket, and it is balanced. I have no weights or anything that came with it. There is nothing to balance it with. So if it runs on medium or lower, it's fine. So I went in and I took out the high gear because it was easier. I just unplugged that one cord that says it can go to the high gear and said "fuck you," and now it's fine.
But my turkey isn't even digested yet. It's not time to friggin' decorate.
Can I just complain that I don't have any leftover turkey, and that I'm really sad about that.
We
we didn't have turkey at all.
had ours.
Your
We
house
had ours
sucked.
yesterday.
we have leftover ham and biscuits, so I made
Oh,
ham,
no.
egg, cheese biscuits.
We
yesterday.
had the cooked ham, and then this is an Italian household, so we made the freaking sauce, and we just dipped bread all day and freaking ate freaking pork, freaking neck bones, and freaking
That's-
meatballs all day.
Sounds fucking dope.
It was because
Caleb, did I know you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but did you try and assimilate a little bit and eat some pie or anything on Thursday?
No, we had the traditional duck day instead, which is pretty much the same time. It's the 20th, I think. So
You know what?
I skipped Turkey Day.
Okay. See, you know what? I haven't had duck in a while, and that sounds fucking really good right now.
Duck is good. You know
Duck
what?
is really good, especially if it's like roasted.
I've always wanted to have the turducken, man.
I have had a turducken. It's not as good as I hoped, but it's not as bad as it could be.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
kind of the concept
if it's done like 100% on, it's like the best shit ever, and if it's slightly off at all, it's just not great.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
The whole idea of playing Matryoshka dolls with birds is a little bit offensive.
Nah, they don't care. Birds can't get triggered. Only geese can get triggered. So if you did it with a goose, I could see it, but chickens, ducks, they don't get triggered.
I hate Canadian.
And if you're going to do something like that, can't you just go further, right? Put even smaller birds inside, and then
I'm gonna get a quail and shove that bitch in there.
go all the way,
We're
right?
gonna
All the way
hummingbird,
down
all the way
to,
down
I
to
don't know,
hummingbird.
kingfisher, and then all the way up to ostrich.
We're gonna get a pterodactyl, and we're gonna go all the way down to a bumblebee, because that's the coolest flighted animal ever. So it'll have a little taste of honey in there. Fucking just winged creatures.
Bumblebees don't make honey,
Honeybees do though.
but you went to Bumblebee.
I'm just a fucking bee in general. Fuck you.
Bumblebee tuna.
Uncle Sam Bee is
All
gonna
the way
shoot
to
you.
an egg. Here, Rockstein, all the way to an egg, right? You know what? You ever go to one of those restaurants where
in
they...
the center? That's perfect.
No. Why the fuck do you do that in Europe, man? Like, my buddy of mine went to Eastern Europe. This is like fucking 25 years ago, by the way. You know, and he's in like the Russian part of Eastern Europe at the time, right? And he's like, I ordered a pizza and it came out and there's a fucking egg in the middle. What the fuck is that?
Is it like a fried egg, or is it like
They cracked an egg in the middle and stuck the fucking pizza in the oven and cooked it there.
That actually sounds pretty good. Was it egg cooked?
sounds-
It was cooked,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because it was
That
in
sounds
there.
pretty fucking good, actually.
That's nasty.
All right, it sounds...
So egg over easy on a cheeseburger is one thing.
Yeah.
But I only order that if I'm hungover.
Egg cooked hard on a permane sandwich rocks, by the way.
So,
and by Asterazzi,
never
what
will.
what the fuck? I've been to those places, you know, where they put fucking quail egg on everything, and I fucking hate that too. I don't want a fucking quail egg. I'm gonna order.
Stop
goddamn
putting
quail
goat
egg.
cheese on my cheeseburger. Get out of here.
What's
gross.
it's a goat cheeseburger?
No, they had it. So I'm really mad that one of the local.
Apparently, somebody's mom says we should use less cuss words. Okay. Growing up, the F word has always been my favorite word. It is, except when at work, you don't use the word.
It is proven that
But-
if you swear
or with
more,
my
people
children.
will pay attention to you more.
Yeah, because apparently what you're saying is more important if you swear.
Nah, but
Hamburgers
We,
with egg. Oh, pineapple. That absolutely. And by that, pineapple, ham, and bacon on your fucking pizza is rocks.
pineapple on pizza is
That's-
delicious.
Two pizzas that Demorg loves is that one and white pizza with
Yeah.
green olives with the
Yeah,
sliced tomatoes.
he got a crazy pizza when we were in Vegas at this like
Did he?
make your own pizza bar like shop thing because we stopped for lunch.
There you go.
Oh man,
I went out corpse hunting last night, and who's the first fucking corpse I click on?
Who's-
Mark.
Roanna, we are very weak-minded here.
So
we're
I have
just-
160
most of us are
corpse.
F1
If
monkeys.
I have your corpse, will sell to you. Just tell me how much you think you're worth.
Defile my corpse.
I've already filed your corpse.
File my corpse. You know what?
RJ, I have your corpse right here. I'm just gonna carry it around in my cargo hold of my Rorqual.
If you know what, if CCP is going to write more code, right? I got to tell you that if you're going to write new code, I want code to put fucking corpses on my citadels and my fucking ships.
Can I put?
Okay.
Can I just have corpses like skewered on the antennas of my ships, like
This sounds
just
strangely
like
familiar.
Road Warrior nonsense?
That's
like-
familiar.
I want my pilot. to
Caleb,
sit
you're not
there
mad
and
at us. You're being awfully quiet now.
No, I'm following chat.
Okay.
All right, he is commenting in chat. Yeah. Oh man. So.
I don't want fucking corpse base. I want
mention that thing.
What? Huh?
Do we want to mention the
USA net neutrality thing?
Net neutrality? Anybody
want to go
triggered?
into that?
Anybody
I'm
triggered?
triggered. I called my representative.
I'll tell you what. I'm not exactly sure.
From 4 different phones.
I'll be honest.
I watch a lot of friggin' like in my house. All right, so let me do this. I guess I'll get it started. So in my house, the way my friggin' shit is set up, I don't have any cable. The only cable company I work for is for my friggin' ISP and my internet. That's it. Period. I don't have any of their channel stations, whatever and whatnot. I got rid of DirecTV. I got rid of all that shit. I got freaking streaming devices in each one of my main rooms, and I set up my own freaking network or my own LAN hub for media and shit. So when I download my movies, I put them onto my hard drive, and then I just stream them throughout my house, right? But I also freaking subscribe to, Netflix and freaking Stars, HBO, and all that, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper, right? I really don't want to have to pay for Netflix and then have to pay for a fucking service that allows me to do that. That's why I got away from fucking cable, because it's bullshit. Because I was fucking not happy paying for 1,000 channels when I only wanted to watch 5 of them. So, I mean, it's fucking bullshit. I would have to get forced into some crap like that. That's why I got rid of that shit. Or not being able to visit some fucking websites that, are important to me and having to fucking pay extra to do that. Yeah. Fuck that. Fuck that noise.
It's one reason I hate console gaming is because why do I want to pay you another like $15 a month just to turn your console on to the actual features that make it useful? No point in doing it. No, I'm not paying for Xbox Live. Why the fuck would I?
Yeah, so Asterothi, the expectation here in the U.S. is that the FCC is going to introduce a reversal of the Net Neutrality Act, right? Not act because it's a regulation, right?
Yeah, right.
I would argue that I don't like that the FCC implemented net neutrality in the way that they did. Okay, and by that I mean as a regulation, right? I think organizations like the FCC are able to make effective law without the normal process that we have in the U.S. So I actually would like to see something related to that go more through the Congress than go through a committee of 3 people or something.
The problem is that Congress doesn't have any freaking power over it right now.
Well, they do. They do. They can absolutely make law.
Yeah,
I mean,
they can make law.
Congress could override the FCC by passing a law.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is Congress can't do any crap because of the way our Congress is set up right now with all the.
Well, it's made to make laws. Well, it's made to make laws slow. Instant gratification in the U.S. lawmaking.
My comment on this is to trigger Eric, because if I'm not mistaken, anything regarding net neutrality and the whole thing of basically a kind of payment wall is exactly like the toll wars in the past, and it's going to fail miserably because the customers will just figure out how to choose around it, and eventually the ones that put up these internet toll walls are just going to crash and burn.
And there may be some truth to that, right? But at the same, like I said, I'm there are some things about net neutrality that I like, and there are some things I don't like, right? I look at this from both a consumer and both from a business perspective, right? But my thing is, if you're going to implement something about neutrality within the net and what you're allowed and not allowed to do, I prefer that not to come from a regulating body who willy-nilly can change regulations, right? Yeah. I mean, in 4 years, we could get a new FCC body, right, and completely reverse this, right? So from a business perspective, you don't like things moving back and forth that often, being that volatile, and that's where I think laws through Congress are a better way to do this.
We've got too many monopolies, right? That's really what trended this whole thing into a problem area, is that there's too few players globally on the market, so it is a little bit of a problem, and it needs to be disrupted from government side. But what I wanted to point out is some of us still remember way back in the day when we started getting our first flat rate internet, right? And before that, we had to actually pay a minute fucking fee to use the internet, right? And it took a long time before they started adding these flat rate services. I think the market is going to correct this by itself as long as there is enough players on the market. So net neutrality is a short term, maybe they get like 5 years of raking in some extra money, and then they're going to have to change their method because the customers just won't take it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said. I mean, we don't know what it's really going to do. We don't know the impact. And again, there's good and bad on both sides of this argument. I'm just saying, I don't like regulatory bodies that make law, right? Or effective
No, but
law.
the point is not to make law. The point is to make sure that there is competition, and we've had a market that's been consolidating into very few players. How many do you have in the US now? 3?
Well,
That's really easy to make a cartel with only 3 players.
Caleb, it's not even just 3. It's like 2 for this half of the country and 2 for the other half of the country.
Like-
and those 2 on each side go, no, we're not going to the other side because they haven't came to our side yet.
Like, you know what option?
They're
I got
literally
right
not
now?
competing with each other because both sides have a passive agreement saying, nah, if we don't move this far, they won't move this far.
I have
I
one
just
option.
disagree. I disagree with that,
goddamn
Karate. You don't need this into law. What you need is to stop allowing monopolies to survive. You need to have some way of removing monopolies. It's what the whole antitrust laws is about. It's like start fucking enforcing that. The markets will correct itself. This is where I'm being the capitalist, right, Eric? If you allow them to become monopolies, duopolies, or small oligopolies, you're going to get the negative effects of capitalism. And you can try and make laws of everything needs to be free, like we can only have flat rate internet and bullshit like that. No, let the market correct this stuff, but you need the antitrust laws. Break up the fucking monopolies and stop letting them buy up all competition.
So here's the deal. As Strati hit it on the nose, the internet is infrastructure. It's like using your phone. Like literally, there's a law. There's law in place in the United States that every person's home to get a phone hookup is the exact same price, no matter where the fuck you live.
Yeah, that brings on the other side of capitalism, right, Eric? That infrastructure should never be privately owned, but only leased.
Well, it depends, right?
Telecom
The original internet backbone here in the U.S. went from Cornell to Pitt and Carnegie Mellon to Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, and then on to San Diego, right? That was the initial 4 points of the main backbone for the internet, right? And it's branched off from there. And that was essentially put up by the federal government. However, even the government bought those long-haul lines from private industry, right? And it gets very complicated here in the U.S. I mean, in the U.S., we sell point-to-point trucking rates, right? There's two cities, and there's a road between them. And by the way, if you travel that road, somebody owns that route. And if you want to use it, you have to pay them. So we have people that own things and just get the royalty off it, right? So it gets very difficult. My thing is...
The problem with privately owned infrastructure is really the whole Mexican standoff around a pothole, right? Who's going to fucking pay for it? If it's about who will wait the longest to fix something, the private sector will never do it. They won't roll out new stuff. They won't repair the things and improve the infrastructure until there is an obvious economic benefit. And they are thinking short terms, always. That's why infrastructure
Well, I disagree with that.
should always be kind of controlled by a government force and then leased out, so the private outsource services, right?
So we had a state-owned highway system, which was a toll-based system here, and it was always shit, right? Since they've had private industry take it over, and now it's a whole hell of a lot better, right? So it's just a challenge. The real question is there a way that you mesh private local networks into a bigger network and make laws on how traffic gets routed across the backbone of that private network, right? And then profit sharing within that entity. It's just challenging. My point is, an FCC, which is an unelected body, making policy of this nature, in my mind, is the wrong way to do it. Very public discussion, actual federal law around this rather than just regulation. Because that's all the FCC can do, by the way. They make regulations.
You have to kind of argue around, or have a discussion about what the FCC is supposed to do. They are trying to maintain and govern something that is, by its universality, the commons, right? Like the airwaves. If everyone could just send out whatever they like and just overpower the signal to deafen everyone else. It's like you can't just allow a. It would end up as a tragedy of the commons. It would just be totally chaos. So you have to have someone on a governmental branch manage things that are naturally in the commons, whether it's roads or airwaves. You cannot be against managing stuff like that. Otherwise, you're just going to have some sort of anarchy.
Hey, we've only got 2 minutes. I'm going to answer Iraq's on there. No, the FCC, I'm not saying is a private company. What I'm saying is the FCC is a regulatory committee, right? Who makes regulations that are effective laws, but aren't really the same as laws, right? And so what I said was use the legal authority to actually put into law what you want, because it's harder to change law than it is to change regulation in the U.S. That's all. And with that, we pretty much have 2 minutes left. So, Caleb, give me your last thoughts. I'll go around the room.
Corporations should be able to die again, like in the old days, and especially in the real world. Those that service utility or things like that should have a lifespan, just like they used to in the past. That would make it so much easier to govern the commons and utilities.
Okay. RJ?
Depending on what side of the fence you are on with freaking net neutrality, freaking contact who you have to contact.
That's right. Scythe?
I want to give a shout out to my buddy who just announced they're having their first kid. Go Chase and Olivia.
Hooray, hooray. Congratulations.
Happy note. Not this bullshit.
All right. So, good show, guys. Good arguments. I love it. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating. Thank you, everybody in the audience, for your comments. That was an awesome, probably the most active chat we've seen in a long time. And coming up next is the Meta Show. Everybody say bye.
Yay, Mittens.
Bye.
Things.